Well, I'm here with somebody that I'm super pumped to have a conversation with, Braylon Oliver. How are you?
I'm doing great. Honored to be on. Thank you so much for having me. Pumped for this
Yeah,
conversation today.
it's going to be great. And anyone listening to this, what this is it's conversations. And Braylon and I are simply going to have a conversation as if we were drinking coffee or tea in uh, Seattle. We could be in Los Angeles. We could be in Florida. We could be in Kansas City in a hotel till 2 a.m. chatting. But today we're going to have a conversation over Zoom. So, Braylon, tell us a little bit about who you are, your story. I know you have a wife. So tell us a little bit about who you are.
Yes, my is Braylon, and my story really is I have an amazing wife. We have a 2.5-year-old named Ocean Wild Oliver, my little light skinned prince with blonde curly hair.
Yeah.
And we actually have another kid on the way. So soon to be a dad of two, but I've been married for 7 years to my amazing wife, Carly. And we currently live in Spokane, Washington,
Mhm.
which most listeners probably don't know where that is. If you follow college basketball, that's where Gonzaga plays. And if you're like, who's Gonzaga? It's the team in the March Madness tournament that usually has like 4 or 5 white guys starting, and they go
Yep.
much farther than a team with 4 or 5 white guys should go. I live in that place, so that's kind of my claim to fame. But I lived a life of being in full time ministry. Got a chance to work with some amazing churches, specifically spent a lot of time at church home in a variety of roles. But that whole time really had a passion for technology and how technology can actually serve the church and not vice versa. I think nowadays it can get a little confusing or challenging when churches think they have to serve technology, but I've always loved really the technological space, the digital space.
Yeah.
So went from ministry to working for some awesome tech companies that serve churches and serve the faith space, and now find myself in a role in a space that I'm completely honored to be in and don't deserve to be in, but the head of creator relations for a company called Faithful.
Hmm. Yeah. And I'm a big faithful guy. We'll get into that. I'm real faithful, Braylon. Just
You
kidding.
get it. You get it.
Yeah, I'm pretty faithful. No, moving on. Just kidding. Yeah. So tell us. So you said you were in full time ministry. A lot of the
Yes.
viewers are in ministry or maybe even hungry to get into ministry of some sort, whatever that means. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey of how you kind of jumped into the ministry space? And you're still in ministry, right? Like we're all in ministry. We're all in
Yeah,
ministry
yeah,
with
yeah.
somebody, but kind of that journey.
Yeah. I was probably like some of the listeners. I was one of the like annoying kids in high school, a part of their youth group that was like, I'm going to be in ministry one day.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I did, again, probably like a lot of the listeners, I did an intern program at my church, at City Church, now Church Home. I did an intern program and was the like big headed, annoying, like needed to be humbled intern guy that just
Yep.
thought I was God's gift to ministry and the world, which is not the case at all. But was just I loved my local church, and my life was changed at my church. And so I just wanted to be a part of that life change. I thought it was the
Yeah.
coolest thing that I had youth leaders and youth pastors that would come visit me at lunch, and I knew how that made me feel. And so I wanted to pass that along. I wanted to be the cool youth leader that was coming onto campuses and brightening up some little kid's day. Little kid, I was like 17, but feels so
Right.
little. So I just had that interaction. I was first impacted by ministry before I
Yeah.
felt called to ministry, which I think is very important and crucial when it comes to even just a healthy perspective of ministry. Is I think first you need to be impacted by it.
Right.
Even when you're in ministry, you need to continue to be impacted by the ministry that you lead, not just lead the ministry. So I did
Okay.
that, and then after I was an intern, kind of went on a crazy journey of finding myself and trying to figure out what I'm supposed to do. And I had, a little season there where I put two middle fingers up to church and God, and did the whole like, I need to find myself thing. Did I waste my life? All that stuff. I was like 21 asking, did I waste my life?
Right.
What a loser. But got it all figured out. Actually, I didn't figure any of it out. God just kind of slapped me in the face, and I had some pretty crazy moments and nights that led me back to the most kind of humble place of my life. So once I was 23, started working yet again full time for my church, and was the kids pastor. So started out as a kids pastor. I was one of the kids pastors. There was quite a team of us, and then did that, and then ended up becoming the campus pastor of Church Homes downtown location, right downtown in Seattle. So all in all, was in ministry for 7 years. Being the campus pastor for the last 3 years of that.
Yeah. Well, something that I love is just being around you in Kansas City and having dialogue was, and obviously this is you're probably one of the most refreshing people I've been around. And you can even, viewers, anyone can probably just tell by this conversation that you're light and you're fun, you're smiling, you're joking. Something that I wanted to ask was, how did you learn through, it might have been when you were younger or even in ministry, how to ask great questions?
That's a great question. I was taught to play this game. When you get done hanging out with somebody, the game is you win the game if they talk more than you talk. One of the best ways to show that you value somebody is to listen. And I love to value people because I love people. And I think people are very important. And I think people are special. And I think their stories are special. I think their perspectives are special. And I just truly believe that every opportunity I have with someone is an opportunity for me to learn and for my perspective to grow and for me to just feel connection and become a better person because of the person that I'm in front of, or because of the person that I'm sitting next to on a couch in a hotel lobby in Kansas City. So I just always want to value people. And I want people to feel special and important. And I think for me, one of the easiest ways to do that is to ask questions, to listen to people, to learn about them, even if you only have an hour with them, just to find out who they are, how they tick, how they think. And so I just want to win that game. I always want to listen more than I talk. I always want to, which is funny on a podcast like this, that like I'm giving very long-winded answers to say, I want to be the guy that just listens and barely talks. So a little bit of a oxymoron at the moment, if you will. But I just always want to win the game. I always want to ask more questions than the other person. I always want to listen more than talking more, because again, it just all stems back to people and the importance of people. And I think if you love people, like I just decided, and I was taught this by my pastor, Pastor Judah, I was taught, you have to love people more than your opinions. And I know that sounds so like easy, like duh. But I think you can tell if someone loves their people more than their opinions, or opinions more than people, by just how much they talk.
Wow. It's so good. Yeah, that was something that my wife and I left our conversation just feeling refreshed. And it's funny, it's almost like an oxymoron, like you said, of like, I'm asking questions to listen, but in that we like, you use the word influence, like there's influence in asking questions. And even earlier you said you were kind of the young, hungry, prideful, like, hey, I'm called, all to this point of humbling yourself, you said, and then asking a lot of questions and being the great friend and leader you are now. It's just super encouraging to me. And I hope anyone listening to this, ask more questions. And if you don't know how to ask questions, a book that changed my life was How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Some super practical questions to ask people. But Braylon, you're part of this team, Faithful. Tell us a little bit about what Faithful is, maybe the journey of starting it, and you even saying, hey, I want to be on board to this because it sounds like something that I would love to be a part of.
Yeah. Well, thank you for asking and caring about even what we're a part of and what we're doing. We think it's special, but just because you think something's special, that doesn't mean that other people do.
Right.
So Faithful is a digital platform. It is subscription-based content. It is very similar to Patreon, but specifically for the Christian space. And so Faithful is a place where you can come on and you can subscribe to different Christian content creators and really get exclusive content and deeper access in a way that no other social media platform allows. And kind of our whole mission is deeper connections through exclusive content and intentional community. And that's our mission. That's why we created the platform. That's what gets me waking up, coming back to work. I work from home, but coming back to work every day is I truly, truly believe that as technology is being used by God to share the story of Jesus, get more people saved than ever before. I heard this stat. I don't know how legitimate it is, but I heard a stat that in 2021 through YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, that they believe that over 12 million people gave their life to Jesus through a social media type of platform, right? Yeah. So with that happening, right, we see so many people sharing the good news of Jesus, churches, individuals, just like yourself, that are sharing the gospel. So now that people are giving their lives, is there a same digital platform? If they give their life digitally, is there a platform that can disciple effectively in that same way, which is a digital means? So that's what we're trying to accomplish on Faithful, is really to create a platform that allows people to go deeper with these amazing men and women that have impacted their life.
Yeah, for sure. And for anyone listening, I've been a part of Faithful for, I think, like 3 months now, just trying to getting into the game of creating specific content. And I've found it super valuable to not only connect with people in a deeper way, but also to, it helps me grow and think differently when I have to be so specific and dialed in, and not just like a general post on Instagram. Like I'm specifically helping people go from A to B. And on the other side of it, I'm partnering with other people who are creating content to learn from them. Whether that be like a communicator huddle or somebody's teaching theology of a new way. It's helped me lead better, more aligns from creating side and consuming. Something that I always find interesting, and I had a conversation with a social media influencer, or whatever title that is, about the social media, the technology side in the local church. So I think people can pendulum swing one or the other. And I think there's actually a beautiful equilibrium that we could find. Talk to us a little bit about how the local church, like you said, the technology local church balance, one should fuel the other. And right now you guys are being a solution to that. Talk to me a little bit about that.
About the balance of the local church and technology.
Yeah, I think some people like are anti-social media, but then I think some people only are following somebody on Instagram and that's their journey. Where do you find the balance of that? And also, how can us as listeners and you and I be a solution to both of those?
Yes, I actually love this question. Let's go back to Paul, who, we wrote 2/3 of the New Testament. Paul, who is in a lot of ways the father of the faith, really helped start the churches that we know. And we can learn so much from Paul in his letters to the churches that he planted, that he passed off. And so looking at Paul and even the early church, they actually really leaned into technology. Yeah. I know that sounds crazy because it was like their technology, they rode donkeys, bro. There was no technology. But even like how the original churches, or churches in antiquity in these times, were built, the architecture was cutting edge technology with how they built it for the acoustics to then bounce off the walls and go farther. Think, they didn't have microphones, but they had these massive rooms where their voices needed to travel. So how they actually built the churches, or even the outdoor auditoriums, coming from stage on the bottom to the seating up top, how that actually propelled voices was cutting edge technology that only the church was using. You then see the Roman Empire then took this and then they started to build a lot of those things. Then Caesar sees it and kind of does it all over the world. But if you look into it and study it, the church started a lot of these things, right? They really leaned into technology. Even if you look at how Paul funded his ministry, Paul had a tent making business. That's actually what financially, between the church of Philippi and his business, that's what really funded Paul and allowed him to do all the things that we know that Paul went on to do.
Right.
So I think there's two things that Paul did specifically that we can learn from today that is, even if I can be so bold, even looked down upon by some Christians when we see influencer pastors do that, right? We kind of will scoff at a pastor that leans into technology or scoff at a pastor that has a side hustle of some kind. But Paul himself did both of these things in a cutting edge way that we sometimes forget. So I think that Paul was a great example of it. I think that every single church has to run with the grace that is on that church.
Yeah, it's
right.
great.
There are. I was just at my dad's church in Phoenix, Arizona, last Sunday. Got a chance to preach for my dad. It was awesome. My dad has a small Black church. It's predominantly Black people, basically all Black people. My wife and my mom were the only two white people in the room, of about 25 people. So my dad's church has a specific grace and calling. If my dad's church tried to get up and do like a Hillsong worship set on a Sunday, it would just be so weird and people would be confused and they would be so thrown off by like a white dude in skinny jeans. Like they just wouldn't get it.
Right.
Because I believe their church has a specific calling and the people that they have to reach. So I think as you stay in your lane of who you are as a church or who you are as a minister, who you are as a person or a business, understanding that there's still a part that technology plays. But if you're not this church that has the means or is cutting edge or has people that embrace even innovative ideas, then going all in on technology probably isn't the best. But with where your church is at, however, I still think there's a way that technology can actually serve you and help you accomplish the call of your church in a small or major way or degree.
Yeah.
I don't know if that answers your question.
I think it's great. I remember, no, it's so good. I even remember back at my first church that I served at and volunteered at and eventually worked at, it was like heresy to download Instagram and to post and to maybe think that somebody in our city would be reached through that. And it was like, guys, let's just try it. Why not? Yeah. Like, what's the worst that could come out of this? And something that you said, and I think that even a viewer who has 500 followers struggles with just as much as 5 million is comparison. We look at somebody else's growth or somebody else's fruit, and we compare it, and then we're not running in the grace that God actually placed in us, which takes some time and discipline and people in your life to question and say, hey man, why are you doing this? What is your intent? What is your why? So something we always talk about every single time is disciplines. I'm super fascinated by people like you, who have a lot to do. You're managing a lot. You have a son who has the coolest name of all time, by the way, like Ocean. Come on. Like, it's always one of those things, it's like my wife and I don't have kids, but we're like, we got to process this. We can't just have a name now. It's got to be like a dope name,
We are in the day and age of like crazy names. I love it.
We're just gonna name our kid River,
You get it.
River Crazy. It's like reminded me of Ocean Wild, No, I'm just kidding. So what is your kind of weekly routine, or even if you have like a daily rhythm? Because I'm always fascinated by this.
We do have a daily rhythm. When you have a toddler, that really forces you into a daily rhythm. But for me, I think that fun and family is very, very important. And so we start off our day with those two things. So every day before anything happens, before any work starts, we get up and we have breakfast as a family every single morning. The three of us, we sit down at this table that I'm sitting at right now, actually, and we have breakfast together. And then we'll play for a little bit. I always make sure to try to put my phone down and have just intentional time with my son before he says, "Dad, I have a meeting," which is like the most heartbreaking thing to hear, but also,
Right.
yeah, like I had to have a meeting because those Lightning McQueen toys I just stepped on will by themselves, Buckaroo.
Right.
So starting my day off with family and just a good time. We're music people, so we have music on. Some days it's worship music, some days it's the Bridgerton soundtrack or the new Drake album.
Yeah.
um, but just starting off the day all together is very important, and then we end the day the way we started.
Mm.
So no matter what craziness happens throughout the day, if I'm in a room, if my wife's in a room tucked away the whole day, if Ocean is with his my in-laws, or whatever the day could look like, even if when I'm traveling, we still try to do this, but
Yeah.
we end the day the way we started it. So we do dinner together. We all sit down basically every day. This is our routine and rhythm. We play, we try to have no phones or screens and just have moments of connecting. And then Ocean goes to bed, and then my wife and I will usually watch a show or something, and then we wake up and do it all over again.
Yeah.
And so kind of sandwiching the day with family and fun for us is a rhythm that right now works. I know that's not realistic for everybody, but for me, I refuse to start my day until we've all connected. We're all on the same page. We've had breakfast. We feel good. We feel like a unit. Then we'll go on and do what we have to do that day.
Yeah, well, it's so cool. I hope that even if you don't have a kid and you're listening to this, or you don't even have a wife and you're a 18-year-old kid just trying to figure it out, that you understand that those principles can still work with you. You can
Yeah.
still have
Well,
fun, you
what are
can
those to
still
you?
find friends. Yeah,
Yeah. Like what are those to you? Values, like those family and fun weren't always my values, but I did start
right.
off every day with whatever my value was in that
Mm,
season. I think, if it is valuable to you and you look at your calendar should tell you what's valuable to you. Well, your calendar will tell you what's
right.
valuable to you. If you go back and look at every hour, how you spent your day, whatever the one added up the most to, that's a value to you.
Mhm.
So figuring out, okay, am I happy with that? If I was to
Right.
literally measure every hour, everything I spent emotional energy, physical energy on throughout that day, am I happy with the ranking?
Mhm.
If not, I need to rechange how I'm spending some time, some even emotional time, emotional energy, to really make sure that whatever my value is in this season is happening.
Mm,
Family and fun is my number one value right now. So I need to make sure that if I look at my calendar, that shows it. If not, I think I'm doing something wrong. And what's the point of routines, rhythms, and discipline if it doesn't match our values? If we're
mm.
just doing it for discipline's sake, then I think that falls in line with being a Pharisee, quite honest. But if we're
Yeah.
doing it because it's a value system that is attached to that discipline, that
Yeah.
rhythm, then I believe that is a very, very healthy, Jesus-focused lifestyle.
Yeah, that's so great. Even this morning, I was talking to a youth pastor in Minnesota, and he is just talking about how, like, obviously consistency and discipline is absolutely needed, but he's just kind of feeling off. And I was like, well, we can get stuck in the mundane. And sometimes ministry life is mundane, sure, but there should be some sort of zeal or insight of like actual fruit of joy. Like, are you waking up excited? Or are you dreading the drive to the church office or your workplace? For me, I wake up and go to my office 5 steps away from my bed. So same with you, obviously.
Yeah,
But it's like,
absolutely.
yeah, it still works. Like we have to understand that. Obviously, like what we do daily is it will become permanently. Like your daily habits
That's
shape
great.
your future, but also your daily habits don't have to define you. Like I've been around people who are so overly disciplined, like you said, probably the Pharisee line or a religious kind of mundaneness to it. That
Yeah.
actually, like God wants you to have fun and laugh and enjoy your day. So Braylon, give us one last piece of advice. Maybe it's to a 50-year-old viewer or a 16-year-old kid trying to just figure out how the heck they found this video, but give us one last piece of advice.
Um, you are blessed with the people around you. And you may think that don't enjoy anyone, or I'm 17, I live with my family, they're all annoying, or I'm 50 and I'm by myself and all I have is my annoying apartment neighbor, or wherever you at. But I truly believe that God puts people in our life in very specific seasons for a very specific reason. And there are people that are around you right now that are a blessing from God. And lean into those people, make those people feel special and valuable, because there is something they can teach you, there is something they can provide for you. And I think that God uses people in beautiful and mysterious ways to make our every single day better. And I that was one. My second thing is every day that you wake up, there is joy available for you. And
Mm.
I think that that is a perspective that, if we want to, can change our entire lives.
Yeah, so good. Well, Braylon, how do we find you? How do we even hear about more about Faithful? Maybe if there's a creator watching this and like, hey, I want to know this. How do we?
Yeah. If you want more information on Faithful, you can follow us on Instagram at Get Faithful. Send us a direct message. I'll personally respond. Would love to chat with you, tell you a little bit more about what we're doing. If you're a creator of any type or size, we would love to have you on. This isn't just a space for the biggest names. This is a space for anyone who wants to make an impact.
Mhm.
So you can then follow us and send me a direct message at Get Faithful. And then you can find me on my Instagram at Braylon Oliver. It's not too exciting. It's just pictures of Ocean Wild, who I've talked about this whole time.
No, that's so great. That's all I'm on the gram for is just fan pics.
You
So
get it. You get
yeah.
it.
Thank you so much for being on, man. I appreciate it. I hope that any viewer, you would feel refreshed. You would hopefully had a notepad out, taking notes from Braylon's insight. Thanks, man, for being on.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. Such an honor. Also, everyone should follow Josh Andrews' Faithful channel, a fantastic channel. Check it out. And hopefully you would subscribe today.
Hopefully, subscribe now for the same price. I'm not giving you discounts. So, love you
You
guys.
get it.